Hello everybody, this is Mr. Rob and welcome back to another episode of the Delaware Fightin Blue Hens Dynasty here on EA Sports College Football 26, where we have finished the 2026 season, year number 2 in the Delaware Dynasty. So we're going to recap the season that was and set the stage for another offseason, which will premiere on the channel this coming Friday. If you're excited for that one and for this one and for more, make sure you drop a like and you subscribe down below, especially if you want more Dynasty mode content, as it was a successful season for the Blue Hens. We went 8-5 this year, and if you look at compared to last year, where we went 5-7, we're on the right direction. So it's been a solid couple of years for the Blue Hens. We're going to continue to grow as we head into the third season, and we will go ahead and recap what was year number 2. And if we check our schedule, here's how the year unfolded for the team. We started off at home against Coastal and won 40-35 in a pretty solid game. That was a lot closer than it needed to be. Coastal got a couple of onside kicks down the stretch. We kind of dominated that game. And speaking of domination, game 2, we went to Vanderbilt and won 45-10. An absolute decimation of a Power 4 school. The first time we had beaten a Power 4 school. Yes, Vandy's not the best Power 4 school, but still a very impressive win for the Blue Hens. And then we go to Missouri State, we lose 31-13, and, well, that was kind of a buzzkill because they were the other team that joined the FBS at the same time we did, and this is a game I had circled on my calendar for quite some time, and we lost to the Bears, which was unfortunate. But then we bounced back and beat Western Kentucky at home by 3, although Western Kentucky was not very good. They only won one game this year before our bye week. And then our bye week is when I did make the change. I moved it down from Heisman difficulty to All-American with an All-American slider set, which you can find in the description of all of my videos. I was hesitant to go down to All-American, but I think it was the right choice. I feel like the season played out good. I feel like the games played out better. And we started off by losing to Virginia, 27-17. Could not beat a second Power 4 school. But then we dominated Kennesaw State, doubled them up, 54-27. The Owls are not a good team. Follow that up with a victory at home against Middle Tennessee, 31-10. A victory against New Mexico State, 14-11, which is a defensive slugfest, as our offense at this point started to show some inconsistencies, and that kind of plagued us down the stretch. It didn't plague us against Sam Houston, 35-3. The defense continued to fire on all cylinders. 4-game winning streak going into the biggest game of the season for the conference, and we lose to FIU 20-0. Get shut out by the Panthers. Just come crashing down to kind of back to reality, realizing that we were maybe not ready for a top conference team. And then follow that off with a loss against Jacksonville State, where we lost at the end of the game, 19-16, a heartbreaker that essentially knocked us out of conference championship contention. And then we won against Liberty before going to the Boca Raton Bowl, our first ever bowl game, and we lost 21-13, where again the offense just did not show that much fight. So we're going to have to wait for our first bowl game. But an 8-5 record is a solid season nonetheless for the Blue Hens. In terms of how these stats unfolded for us, here's how it went. Passing-wise, Blake Brown was the quarterback, and he was good. 3,000 yards, 20 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 67% completion. A solid quarterback season for him, although down the stretch, I feel like he definitely didn't play as good. And the question is who's going to be behind him? He's a senior. He's graduating. The top guy behind him is E.J. Archfield Jr., the redshirt freshman, who did not play that good as a passer, but he could potentially transfer. And if he goes out, I mean, you got Trey Lloyd, the sophomore, and then the true freshman Nathan Armstrong, who's not very good. So a lot of questions at the quarterback position going into next season. At running back, it was a balanced attack, although not by our choice. Saeed St. Fleur was supposed to be the top back this season, following in the footsteps of Jonathan Silver. But he got hurt. Only 794 yards, 8 touchdowns, 6.5 per carry. A great season for him. But as you can see, he was dealing with a lot of nagging injuries, so we shut him down for the second half of the season and relied on the sophomores, Greg Spiller and Daniel McConomy, to lead the way, who had a pretty balanced attack. And they showed a lot of the same qualities. I mean, Spiller, 470 yards and a touchdown. McConomy, 417 and 3. Maybe McConomy gets the slight edge here, but I mean, they were the just essentially 1-2, and it's going to be them 1-2 next season as long as they both come back and don't transfer out. Blake Brown added 3 more rushing touchdowns. EJ Archil had a couple of carries. Oliver Red, a junior who's registered as well, he had a touchdown, had a couple of playing time, but we'll see if he sticks around. So overall, a balanced run game this season. Receiving, kind of a disappointment. Nobody really stood out. Thomas Amanqua was the leading receiver, 68 catches, 732 yards, 5 touchdowns. He was the best receiver, but, still nobody really stood out as overly the top. And he's graduating. This receiving room is going to look a lot different going into the next year. The top-rated offensive player up next, Jake Burdell, 63 catches, 632 yards, 2 touchdowns. Kind of a disappointing season, I would say, for Burdell. I expected him to be a little bit more involved. He was, but, he is the top player on this team overall-wise. And now we got to wonder if he's going to stick around for next year. Then we had a couple of transfers. Mikey Welch came over from San Diego State, 42 catches, 441 yards, 3 touchdowns. He had a couple of drops, had a hard time making the contested grab. And that kind of showed with him kind of not getting the most yards. And then Famatori, who had 41 for 420 and 5 scores. A good red zone threat coming over from Rutgers. But again, only had him for 1 season. So we're losing our top 3 wide receivers. St. Fleur had 3 more receiving touchdowns. McConomy had 2 and Spiller with 1. On the blocking front, I thought the offensive line was pretty solid, albeit a lot of them got hurt. Left tackle was Noah Rosahak, and I thought he played pretty good, and he hopefully will return next season, so we'll have an anchor at the left tackle spot as long as he doesn't transfer. The left guard was Nick Colson, and he will graduate, and he did miss a lot of time with some injuries, kind of came off the field here and there. And our backup left guard is Dennis Zamatis, who is not very good if you look at his overall rating, so hopefully we'll have to find a new left guard next year. Center was Josh Hoffman. He's also graduating. I thought he did a very good job up the middle. And his backup is Dion Dotson, who is a redshirt freshman, or Raphael Favorite, who is a junior. I'll probably lead towards Dion Dotson. At right guard was Anthony Cassis, who was pretty solid up the middle as well. His backup was Cade Wentworth. And both of them should return next year, so maybe we slide Wentworth over to left tackle, or left guard, excuse me. And then our starting right tackle was Jack Small, who didn't allow a sack. Did miss a little bit of time, but the Duke transfer was highly effective. Hopefully he sticks around for another year. His backup was Carmine Lupi, who should graduate. On the defensive side of the ball, 3 players reached 100 tackles. Gavin Mall, to no surprise, he is the captain of the defense. He had over 100 tackles. Same thing with Kingsley Royal, had a really good junior campaign. Disappointed as a sophomore, kind of lost the starting safety job this year. And I wanted to keep him on the field, so we tried him in the nickel, and he played really well. I think he could slide back to safety next year. Maybe keep him as more of a box safety, though, on nickel downs. And then Dexter Foster, the transfer, had 110 tackles. As far as sacks, the pass rush definitely went down. Michael Marion led the way with 9. Nobody reached double figures this year. Another guy who came over in the transfer portal and will be gone after 1 season. Trey Scott had 6 sacks, and I like what we saw out of him as kind of a pure power kind of guy. Hopefully he sticks around and can be the number 1 defensive tackle next year. Dexter Foster also added 3 sacks, same for Anthony Crenshaw, who emerged as a pass rusher down the stretch. And then Dalton Dotson, the true freshman, the 3-star from Smyrna High School last year, one of our 2 3-star recruits. He had 3 sacks and some limited playing time, and he should take a big jump, hopefully, as a sophomore next year. Gavin Mall also had 2.5 sacks, 2 for Shane Peyton Hodges, the Jacksonville State transfer, who looked to keep his rotation spot next year. And then a sack and a half for Colin Gallagher, who should step up to be the next middle linebacker and captain of the defense. He's a guy that I would look out for next year. I can see him really exploding onto the scene. Derek Malone with a sack and a half, 1 for DeMarco Johnson, the safety. We'll touch on more in just a minute. And then Dominique Cobbs and Noah Matthews with 1. Disappointing season for Noah Matthews. Only 1 sack and 14 tackles. Hopefully he can get back to his groove as a senior. Although he did play a little bit more inside just because we had some depth issues. So hopefully if we kick him back outside, that number will go back up. And then Jordan Farrow with a sack. Interceptions, DeMarco Johnson led the way with 2. The Akron transfer was the free safety this year. And he had a good second half of the season. Got off to a slow start, but played very good once he found his footing. Royal, like we said, had an interception. Foster also had an interception. He was an all-around good player this year. Khalil Ali, I got to give him some props as a sophomore. He was our shutdown corner. I didn't think he got beat very often. and he is a guy who should be just continue to emerge as he gets into his upperclassman years. Crenshaw also with an interception. Dylan Worley with one. He did miss a lot of time with an injury, but when he was on the field, he was good. But we're going to be missing our 2 starting safeties. Keyshawn Cox, I thought, bounced back from being benched last year from Ali. Again, was not very impressive in the spring. Had to get a job later in the season once we got with some injuries to Worley. We kicked Royal back to strong safety, so Cox played the slot, and he played pretty good. So at least he got to finish his college career on a positive note. And then Nair Domney with the pick 6 in the bowl game. He's a freshman who should emerge coming into it next season. As far as the kicking, 75% for Eric Casillas. Not the best season, I would say, for him. He was a little disappointing, in my opinion. But he is a true freshman, so hopefully now that he's got a year under his belt, he'll do a little bit better. And then kick returns, Luke Brown did have a kick return touchdown against Kennesaw State, and then nothing on the punt team. We'll take a look at the league leaders real quickly to see who was the top guys around the country in every single category. Starting off with yards, it was 5,200 yards for DJ Lagway. He was the Heisman, no surprise, followed by Gunnar Stockton, Josh Hoover. Touchdowns, DJ Lagway. Interceptions with 24 was Adam Lambert of Louisiana Tech. Yikes, in their first season in the Sun Belt. And then 20-plus as well for Florida Atlantic's Isaac Henley. Rushing, nobody reached 2,000, but Isaac Brown had it was 1976. And then 25 touchdowns as well. The best back in the country this year, leading the Gators to a national title with Lagway. Lennon Humphreys was the best receiver, went that 1,744 yards. Also had the most receptions. The only other guys with 100 were Caden Lee of Ole Miss, Caleb Burton, the third of UConn, and Mike Matthews of Tennessee. And your touchdowns leader was Brian Green of Georgia State with 19. Sack leader this year, Dylan Rogers led the way with tackles, 135 for the Missouri State kid, and 17 for Trey White led the country. Other players with double digits were C.J. Madden of Purdue, Donovan Hinish of Notre Dame, Jaheim Otis of Oklahoma, and Darren Reed Jr. of Arkansas State. And then your interceptions leader was Tyler McKinstry of Toledo and Jamari Sharp of West Virginia with 6. So we also went through the playoff in the last episode in case you didn't see that, but Duke ended up losing to Florida, and the Gators are your national champions for the first time in 18 seasons. And that will do it, I think, for the majority of this episode. Oh, here's a look at how the other bowl games unfolded, in case you were curious to see how your team did in a bowl game in the non-national championship bowl games. Here's a look. If you want to pause it, you can. Clemson lost. That's a good thing. South Carolina made the first round of the playoff this year, and that was good. They made it to the semis where they got blasted by Georgia. And then Missouri State also lost to TCU, so I'd like to keep a pace to see how they were. And they also didn't win their first bowl game. USC won the Music City Bowl. Oregon won the Rate Bowl for a couple of the other big ones. Purdue victorious in the Bahamas Bowl. We see Penn State win the Citrus Bowl. That's last year's national champions. Ohio State beat UNLV in a very interesting matchup. Then Oklahoma blasted Houston. And we know that Florida was a national champion in a classic. So that'll do it for this one. Last thing, staff moves. There were some interesting moves in the head coaching world this year. Kenny Dillingham is now at Georgia Tech after being hired away from Arizona State. Shane Beamer is at Florida State. That's a Gamecock fan. That's very interesting to see. He got hired away from the Gamecocks. Alex Golish at Iowa now. Jamie Chadwell is the new head coach at South Carolina, coming over from Liberty. And then Arizona State's newest head coach is Rhett Lashley from SMU. Sam Pittman retired. He hasn't got his replacement yet. Lance Taylor from Western Michigan is the new head coach over there in Stanford. Ryan Silverfield got fired from Florida State. He's now at Minnesota. And then you can see some of the other hires down the board. Mike Gundy is now at Iowa State. He switched his conference after he got fired from Oklahoma State. And then Scott Satterfield is now the head coach at South Florida. And you can see the rest of the head coaches here. Brent Key got hired away from Georgia Tech. And that is how the head coaching world has unfolded. So that'll officially do it now for this one. Next episode will be the offseason as we get ready for year number 3 here in the Dynasty. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, make sure you drop a like and you subscribe down below, especially if you want more Dynasty mode content. This is Mr. Rob, and I'll see you in the next one.